Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. In this video, I'm going to show you the Trompowsky attack, an attack that'll make you win the game in very few moves. And pay attention, because you're going to do it in two moves. And that's it, just two moves. When you play d4 and they play knight f6, which is the most common response, and also, don't worry, when they play d5, you'll be able to use this attack. The Trompowsky attack starts with this wonderful move right here. This is simply going to be an incredible recipe that'll give your opponents a constant headache. Let's enjoy it by showing this powerful attack right here that I'm truly sure is going to blow your mind. Notice one thing. First, we have to evaluate. A very interesting move when we perform this Trompowsky attack, attacking the knight. The black pieces don't want to double pawns, and there's a move, the first one we're going to analyze, which is knight e5, which is a very annoying move. Notice it attacks our bishop and forces us to move it again. Well, you have to remember this move right here. If they attack the bishop directly, we're gonna give it away with this pawn move. And notice that here, black will rub their hands, thinking, first, I get the bishop pair. How crazy. Second, I double your pawns. That's why. And if we add that this knight is very unstable here, they'll capture in every game. Okay? Once they capture this knight, you just have to recapture it. Okay? It seems like nothing happened here. We lost the bishop pair, they doubled our pawns, but still, be careful because there's danger in the position. Look, a very logical move, e6. Why? Because now they can develop this bishop, and also they attack this seemingly defenseless pawn with the queen. Well, what if I tell you that the wonderful move here isn't to defend this pawn, but to advance it and give it away? Pay attention, because this move is much more powerful than you think. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Did you know that if you order this chess set, you can personalize it with your name? This seems spectacular to me. Not only can I do it as a content creator, all of you can also personalize your own chess set. Perfect if you want to give a Christmas gift or a gift for yourselves. Why not? Of course, notice one thing. This pawn can be captured in two ways. We're giving it away. If they capture with the rook pawn, they've directly lost the rook. Why? Because it's not defended. Notice that the pawns have opened up. So now we know one thing. We give this pawn away, but with this pawn it can't be given away. It can't be eaten. A small trap that no one will fall for, right? But if someone falls for it, well, we take the rook. So which pawn should they capture with? Well, they're forced to capture with this pawn, because if they don't capture, we'll capture instead. And notice that we're going to take away their castling rights. Not only will they fail to win the pawn, but they'll also end up completely crushed. So they have to capture. And then notice that we're going to take advantage of this very weak structure of the black pieces, where, their king won't be safe at all, and we'll play e3. A move that makes you say, let's see, chess teacher, that's a very passive move. Since when on this channel do we play such passive moves? Well, take it easy, take it easy. Now, our opponent can play anything. For example, pieces they can develop like this knight, this bishop. We don't care what they do, okay? Imagine that this king here is very scary, right? It's very scary to have this king here. So they want to develop this bishop anywhere to be able to castle and at least take advantage of the file. It's the most logical thing for the black pieces to think. So come on, you and I are going to think, where can this bishop go? Can it go here? It seems like a very bad move, because after c3, they'd be losing a tempo. They'd have to retreat it, right? Fine, it can't go here. So here it seems like a very bad move, because it blocks this pawn right here, right? So the most logical move, I'm sure you're with me, is bishop e7, a totally natural developing move that even in the future can come to defend the castling, right? So bishop e7 is the most logical move here to be able to castle. So we continue attacking here, right? We bring the bishop here. Watch out, if they get distracted here and play a move other than castling, look, for example, knight c6, we simply take this pawn with check, and they can't capture because you remember what I told you, right? This pawn can't move, and many people, when we play bishop d3, don't realize the true threat of bishop takes pawn check. Notice that now if they do this, we take here, and they'd lose the right to castle. They'd have to place the king here, so they'd be in a terrible position. What they don't know is that as much as they fall for this trick, they're gonna lose. But even if they castle, they've lost anyway, because we have a spectacular move that's gonna give you goosebumps. Rook takes pawn, and we win the game. Spectacular rook sacrifice. And you'll tell me, chess teacher, but if they can take your rook here and you don't have pieces to attack, well, watch out, because now it's time to enter with our beautiful queen check. Thanks to the fact that this pawn can't move because we have it pinned with the bishop on d3. The queen can't be captured, so the king has to move. And now we simply enter with the bishop, bishop takes pawn, and notice that right now this king is in a checkmate situation. On the next move, we're going to enter with the queen, and we're going to give a tremendous checkmate. There's no way to save themselves. Having seen this line from the beginning, now comes the most interesting part of this video. And we're going to see what happens if when we play d4, they play d5. Watch out for these lines because they are tremendously spectacular. We'll start, of course, by playing our bishop over here, okay? Notice one thing. I've checked the database. I'm just saying this is a fact, okay? I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but more than 500,000 players right here, without thinking, have played e6, losing the queen. So, well, look, here's a tip. If you ever catch one of those 500,000 people who accidentally play e6, you've won the game immediately by taking the queen, right? But this isn't the interesting part. What happens if they keep playing knight f6? In this case, the whole story changes, okay? If you first play the double queen's pawn and then they've placed the knight on f6, remember one thing, you must capture this knight, okay? And now let's look at the attack plans, because they are just too incredible. As I always tell you, think the plan through. Don't just memorize the moves by heart. They have to capture this bishop right here. Obviously, it seems like the right move is to capture with the e-pawn. Because notice that if they capture with the g-pawn, when they castle, okay, this king is going to be left totally exposed, right? So this bishop should be captured with the e-pawn, logically, okay? Let's continue with some natural moves. As our plan indicates, we're going to play e3. Look at this, huh? The slight difference right at the start of this line is that our opponent has a much weirder structure than we do, okay? It's true that we've sacrificed the bishop pair, but that was the whole idea of placing a bishop here, right? You'll see how the attack unfolds because we won't even need the bishop pair. Very well, they might play, for example, bishop d6. This is the best square for the dark squared bishop. Why? Because it'll point directly towards the castle king, okay? As we said here, we'd immediately play c3 and kick it out, and it would have to go back here. We've gained a tempo, right? So if they play here, it would also be fine. The attack would work exactly the same way. And if they play here, well, we'll just stick with the same plan. Notice one thing. Now, I'm going to show you an attack plan that's going to fascinate you. You shouldn't get hung up on the moves the opponent makes, okay? Just focus on the plan, because it doesn't matter what they do, right? Here we're going to play c4. Does this structure look familiar? It looks like the Queen's Gambit structure, doesn't it? For those of you who are a bit more professional, well, that's the idea. What's our idea here now when we play c4? Well, if you've ever seen my video, for example, on the Kali system, I explained that when these two pawns are threatening to advance here, it's super important that when playing c4, c6 is played. Do you know why or not? Because this bishop wants to be on this diagonal, okay? If we play c4 and they castle, for example, now after this move, this bishop will never be able to be on the diagonal at once, and will have to retreat. That's why it's extremely important, and burn this into your memory for when they do it to you too. When they play here to threaten coming here, you must play c6 and c3 if you're white, okay? But this is essential because now if they play this move here, the bishop simply retreats and absolutely nothing has happened because it's still here, okay? So obviously, we're not going to play c5 because it's useless, okay? So what are we going to play? How should we continue, chess teacher? Well, by developing our pieces. For example, we'll develop this knight over here. Knight to c3, threatening right now to capture this pawn here. You see it, right? Right now, if they don't react, we'd have pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. No matter how much they try to make this jump here, we'd be covering it with the light. So this knight couldn't be recaptured with the queen. They'd be losing a pawn. That's why, what are we threatening with knight c3? We're threatening to capture the pawn. The most logical move then for the black pieces, if they don't want to lose a pawn, is to capture the pawn themselves. And then we develop our bishop while recapturing this pawn that they just traded with us. Notice that the good thing about this attack is that we don't sacrifice material. We have a better position without sacrificing material. And pay attention because you haven't seen the best part yet, okay? The black pieces, where can they go? They have several moves at their disposal, but you'll agree with me that now this point is starting to be a little weak, so the most normal thing is for them to start castling, right? And at least they protect this point well, they defend themselves well, so yes, very logical. And we'll keep developing. Notice that we must follow our plan, we develop our pieces naturally, and now a move that's a mistake, watch out, a move as natural as pinning this knight, which I'm sure they do to you in almost every game, right? Playing this bishop pinning the knight. Here it's already a mistake, not because of the pin itself, but because they don't address the threat, okay? We place the pieces very well, and it's practically impossible to save themselves. Here, the first thing you should do is kick out this bishop. And now, I ask you, my friends, what happens if they capture this knight? Should we capture with the queen or with the pawn? Exactly, we should capture with the pawn. Even though it seems very strange, capturing with the queen always seems much better. In this case, capturing with the pawn would help us launch an attack down this file here directly toward the king. You see, the pieces are pointed toward the king, we can push this pawn, and this attack would be very strong. So, if in any of your games, when you try to kick out this bishop, they capture this knight, I recommend you be aggressive and push this pawn. Then, when you advance this pawn, the queen can also come in. And the consequences will be drastic with the rook, the queen, and everything together, right? But it's true that here, most players don't capture this knight because it's a bit of a weak move, let's say, okay? Because they're giving away their bishop pair for a knight that isn't doing anything for now, right? So the most normal thing is for them to pull back and maintain the pin. And now I'm going to recommend this lightning fast attack. Although normally this move is very dangerous because our king hasn't castled, careful, careful that we're not weakening ourselves too much. Notice one thing. Now we can afford this massive attack simply because the king is in the center, super well protected by this pawn chain. And even more importantly, our attack is going to be super strong because we have the bishop pointed at the castled king. These pawns are going to launch forward and this rook is going to be placed on the file. And I'm going to show you how to continue because it's impressive, okay? And be careful, I'm not telling you this just because I've tested it with the engine. No, watch out. I've played this opening on many occasions in tournaments, okay? In official tournaments, and I know how people respond because I've studied it well. That's why I'm giving it to all of you, so that just by watching this video, you'll save many hours of study, okay? Look at this. We're going to keep attacking this bishop with the knight, okay? This bishop can't go anywhere. That's why they've already lost their bishop pair. But that's not the most important thing. What's important is the attack plan we have. Whatever our opponent does, whatever they do, okay? Notice they don't have many options either. I developed the knight through here because I can't go this way, right? We're going to capture this bishop. Notice that here they only have one possible move because this pawn can never recapture thanks to this powerful bishop we have on c4, the Italian bishop as the bishop on c4 is called. It's always pointing at the weakest point of the position. So if they can't take with this one, they're going to have to take with this one. And very well, they have a very defensive square, to be honest. It seems very hard to break, but I'm going to show you how to break it very easily. Okay? All we have to do now is launch our pawns. Little by little, we launch the H pawn. Notice that I'm explaining it to you simply so that everyone can understand it. And if I'm going too fast, I apologize. I'm doing my best, okay? We launch our two pawns, and now, how can they defend? Well, notice that for now, the best thing is to do nothing, because if these pawns advance, they weaken themselves. For example, a totally natural move in this case could be moving the queen. It could be attacking this bishop. If they attack this bishop, what did I tell you before? We're going to maintain the diagonal. So all we'd have to do is come here. And our plan is still in place. Notice that you shouldn't memorize this move, right? Because if you memorize moves, you'll say, oh yes, I have to do this one. No, you just stick with the plan. Our bishop wants to be here. If they attack it, well, we keep it on the diagonal we want, right? Imagine that, for example, they play queen e7, a natural move. It wants to come towards the king. They can't do much else either, right? They just need to move the queen, and then we're gonna launch the attack directly with h5. Notice that this attack seems to be going very slowly, but we've already won the game. What are we threatening now? We're threatening pawn takes pawn, and notice that it couldn't be recaptured again thanks to this monster here that's attacking the king directly. So, black has to react. If they don't react, we capture and win here, so they have to react. It would be very dangerous to advance because look at this, we break through here and we have the rook. They couldn't stop it in any way. Notice that the queen could enter through here and there would be no way to stop it. So the only solution they have left is to capture this pawn. It seems like nothing's wrong because the pawn was doubled. And once they capture this pawn, what should we do, chess teacher? Well, it's very simple. We have a star move. We could recapture with the rook, we could recapture with the pawn, but much more subtle, queen to d3, winning the game. Why? Because look how it comes to I, this point right here. And if this pawn is captured, checkmate. That's why this pawn can't be captured right now. And the solutions are starting to be, sorry, I can't talk, very scarce for the black pieces. It seems the only option to defend is this one here, and they've lost on the spot after the wonderful move, queen takes pawn check. Notice that this queen can never be recaptured because we have this bishop here, and we've won the game. When the king moves, simply by entering with the rook, look at that brutal checkmate. I'll show you how to smash this castling thanks to the pawn advance. Much simpler than it seems. Chess teacher, but what happens if right when we play the bishop here, they try to start kicking it out all over the board? Well, the truth is that this is a serious mistake, okay? It's a very serious mistake. However, if you know it's a serious mistake but don't know how to punish it, they'll do it to you, and you won't know how to win the game. That's why you need to know how to punish it. It's very simple, but, well, I'll show you just in case, right? We're going to withdraw this bishop, and we're going to withdraw it here. Why won't we withdraw it somewhere else? Because here, we're tempting them to start attacking this bishop, okay? Nothing happens at all. Notice that we have this bishop on g3 on a very powerful diagonal, directly touching this quite weak point because it's only defended by the queen. And look how what they've done is weaken their king side a lot. That's what we're going to take advantage of to destroy them, okay? Whenever this pawn moves, something bad already happens. Both the f7 pawn and the f2 pawn. Candidates for not moving too much, okay? But, well, how do I punish this, chess teacher? Well, very simple. We could directly break through here, smash the pawn structure, open the rook. Yes, all this would be possible. However, there's a much stronger move when they open up the king side, which is simply to play the move e4, okay? With ideas of attacking here, with ideas of attacking the center. Nah, very simple. That's not the idea, right? Let's assume here black plays first, okay? I'll show you the idea. For example, any move knight c6, a totally normal move, we directly break with e4. Why? As I tell you, it's not to attack here, but to open this queen's diagonal. Notice that the king here is very exposed, okay? Very, very exposed. And there's no way to cover up. There's no way to cover up with any piece. That's why no matter what our opponent does, we're going to go in with a very powerful attack if practically here the best move they have is to capture this pawn we just gave away, okay? Better e4 than e3, yes, because that way we also put pressure here. No matter how much they capture this pawn, very simple, we enter with the queen to give a tremendous check to the king who, look, has to flee because there's no way to cover up with any piece. The knight can't do that and the bishop is on dark squares, so when he leaves, very, very simple. We continue developing our pieces. For example, knight to c3. The king here is very easy to exploit. Many of you will say, yes, this is very easy, but I'm sure you don't know how to exploit it. So pay attention to this. I'll quickly show you how to exploit it. Now, once we develop the knight, black has very few things to do. For example, it doesn't matter what they do because the plan is the same. If they capture this pawn, why? Because at least they say, yes, I have a worse position, but at least I have 2 extra pawns. So we simply castle long. Look how satisfying it is to castle long with these pieces. We pin this knight to the king and the queen. They can't do absolutely anything. After the long castle, they have it tough. Ideas that the black pieces can do, for example, defend this knight, because it can't move. You see it, right? And when they defend it, for example, we come in with this bishop to give check. Notice how our pieces coordinate. The knight can't capture because the rook is there. The king can't come here or here because the bishop is there. The king can't come here because the other bishop is there. So the king only has one square, which is to come over here. Notice how our pieces coordinate in a wonderful way. We come with the knight to f3, giving it away twice. We give it away with both the knight and the pawn. With the knight, it can't be captured because look at our rook. It's looking directly at the queen. But chess teacher, what happens if it's captured with the pawn? Well, we simply open lines to enter with the other rook, and look what a wonderful position, where the black pieces can no longer save themselves from anything. We're attacking with everything, with both bishops, the queen, both rooks, and the knight. And all black has done is place the king in the center of the board. Just in case, I'll show you how to punish it. What do you think? The most important part of the video, boys and girls, we've seen what happens if they make serious mistakes. But what if the black pieces play the Trompowsky attack perfectly? If, when making this wonderful move here, the Trompowsky attack, they play e6, undoubtedly the best move for the black pieces, well, pay attention. The good thing about this attack is that no matter how perfectly they play, our attack is extremely powerful. How are we going to continue here, chess teachers, if they play e6, the best move in the position? Why is it the best move in the position? Let's understand it. Because simply, 1, this knight cannot be captured, because they would simply have the queen, and pawns would no longer be doubled, okay? And two, very important, I don't know what I was going to say anymore. Friends. But anyway, e6 is the best move in the position. I have so many things in my head that they slip away immediately, okay? Pay attention to this. How should we react if black plays perfectly? A good move is e4. Notice that now we're threatening a terrible threat, e5, and winning this knight, right? Because it couldn't move because we have this real strong pin. So e4 seems to give away the pawn, but it can't be eaten for exactly the same reason. We would win the queen, right? So how can they get out of this pan? Very logical, bishop to e7, right? You're thinking the same thing as me. Bishop to e7 is the best move, and it is, but it's very passive. And watch out for the usual. This bishop can't come here because they'd make a retreat. It can't come here because it would lose a piece super brutally because it would lose this one, it would lose that one. So the best is bishop e7. Say no more. So if they're definitely going to play bishop e7, how should I continue? Well, you should continue by putting on this tremendous pressure. Look how they made the most logical moves for the position, and this position already smells fishy, right? We're squeezing too hard. Very well, black can come here and notice one thing. Careful, because now they're attacking this bishop. If I capture here, they'll capture with the queen, and we're not doing so well, okay? Watch out for the good move, and I want you to remember this move, retreating the bishop to d2. It seems like the weirdest move in the world. I'm aware. We moved the bishop and now we're retreating. But it's fine because we've achieved. This is studied in theory. We've achieved this strong pawn center so far advanced that it restricts our opponent's position, and our attack will come shortly. Watch out for one thing. Here, the black pieces, the best option they have if they don't want to castle quickly, notice that here they have no defense, and this pawn is restricting the knight's best square to defend the castle. They can first try to free up the position a bit against this strong center, and they should do it, okay? c5. How should we react if they play c5? Watch out, because if we take, we improve this bishop, right? So we don't want to take, but we don't want to let ourselves be taken either, because if we let ourselves be taken, first we lose a pawn, and if we defend it, we've lost the support for this pawn right here. So chess teacher, this isn't smelling so good anymore, huh? How should I continue? Well, very simple. Don't worry, because this position is very, very, very good for the white pieces. It's a lightning attack. c4, intermediate move, okay? Intermediate move, we attack this knight right here. This knight, where does it have to go? We don't care at all. Let's assume it comes here, but any other square, well, it only has here or here, because if it comes here, it gets into trouble, right? We attack through here, we attack through there, it gets into quite a bit of trouble. So it only has here and here, we don't care, okay? Now, what we're gonna do is capture this pawn. Now we want to capture this pawn before they capture it, and now I'm gonna explain why. It's true they can capture with the bishop, but now we have some very, very good prospects. What's happening here? Well, very simple. Notice that this flank isn't being defended by anyone. All of them. If we split the board in half, this is a trick for your games. You split the board in half and look at where the opponent's pieces are. All of them either, so I'm going to attack on the other side. This move is excellent, okay? This move is incredible. Queen g4, brilliant. We're hitting this point right here, and there are no pieces to come and defend. The only thing they can do is, for example, let's see, if they play king f8, they lose the castle, right? It seems like a pretty bad move. They lose the castle, we're hitting here badly. We'll develop the knights, the bishops, and this position is going to tend toward a loss. But anyway, no one's going to play king f8 against you. If they play this rook over here, what can we do? Well, the situation is starting to look quite similar, okay? They won't be able to castle, and they're facing a pawn threat that doesn't seem too serious. We can move the bishop here, which they can't take because we'd capture the rook, and if they advance, we control all the dark squares, so it looks like they're stuck, right? So many of you are thinking, well, then the most logical move, without a doubt, is to protect it by castling. And that's what they'll do almost every time. Yeah, it doesn't matter what they do, whether they move the king, the rook, or castle, you've already won, okay? But if they castle, which is the most logical move, how can we win quickly? Well, with the classic bishop attack, we take advantage of the queen pinning the king, so this bishop can't be taken, and we're threatening checkmate in just one move. How do you defend against this checkmate? There's absolutely no way to defend it. The only way to avoid checkmate is to move the pawn here. We weaken all the dark squares, and not only that, but they're basically giving us the rook. It's the only way to stop the checkmate, which is why it's so powerful. And to finish in style, I'm going to show you how to punish the dark squares, a real masterclass. In case they don't play here or castle, but instead play g6 to defend all of this. It looks like nothing's happening here, but they've gotten themselves into huge trouble. And I'm going to give you, as I said, a masterclass on how to brutally punish those dark squares. And it could all start, as many of you might suggest, with the bishop over here, right? Attacking the queen, that makes sense. With the bishop here, trying to prevent them from castling, all this is very logical, okay? Because you're already thinking about how to exploit the dark squares. But what if I told you that you have a spectacular move here, which is knight to c3? You'll say, chess teacher, now you've finally gone completely crazy. You have an amazing attack on the dark squares, and you play knight to c3. Seriously? Yes, friends, pay attention to how we're going to crush these dark squares. Knight to c3, trust me on this. My friends, just trust me. It doesn't matter what our opponent does here, we really don't care. Imagine they play knight to c6, attacking this pawn, which would also attack our queen. Fine, I don't care at all. This knight is here to jump, to e4. And look at the control it has over the dark squares right now. This knight was the key to finally crushing the dark squares. We don't care what they do to us. For example, the best move, seemingly, is knight takes pawn. While they're attacking our queen, okay? We're going to ignore this queen, right? That's not what we're interested in, so what are we going to do? Notice that we have the knight ready now. Not only that, but we also have the bishop ready. Yeah, well, I said we'd ignore the queen, but we'll move it first, okay? We're not going to get that crazy. We're going to move it back, but where? Right here, okay? We're going to move it back here. And you'll see the reason for moving it here in just a moment. It's not just to put pressure on the knight, though that's part of it. Look, first, we're attacking the knight. Second, we're attacking the bishop. Two pieces under attack at the same time. And no matter how they defend both, and there's only one way, notice not here because we'd capture, the only way is here. Our idea of placing the queen here wasn't to capture the knight, but the idea was much more powerful. You'll see it now. First, we come to attack with the bishop. This move was already expected. It had to come. At some point, right? This queen is being attacked, it has to move, and now the master move, which is why we moved the queen back here. Look at this move right here, queen to a3, and we win the game with this move. A wonderful move. What are we threatening? Very easy. We're threatening this checkmate if it were our turn again here, giving him the kiss of death. Did you know this one? The kiss of death? When the queen gives checkmate in front of the king, right in front is the kiss of death, because the queen is kissing the king, right? Spectacular. How can they defend? Well, not many ways, right? Maybe the only one, it seems, is coming with the knight here to defend this point. And besides, they're defending now with the bishop by bringing out the knight. This knight jump, but all we have to do is jump to the other side. Look at this spectacular jump now. Check. The king can't come here or here. Why? Because we have the bishop. So the king's only move, what is it? King to f8, there's no other move. And here, how do we finish this off? Well, with the wonderful move, knight to b5, a discovered attack with the queen, and on the next one, we're gonna capture this queen. Notice that the king must move, and now, look how beautiful. We capture the queen with the knight, check. We'll take the rook. Eventually, we'll end up giving mate if we kick out this knight. So this is spectacular. Look at the Trompowsky attack, huh? You didn't expect, right, that it would be so beautiful and so powerful, right? Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this type of video, the only way you have to support me a lot, to thank me, since I do it completely for free, is to leave me a like. Come on, let's see if we can set a record for likes. And that's it. See you tomorrow with another spectacular chess video on this channel. See you tomorrow, guys. Bye.